Oh, so
lack.
this is your intro.
Yeah, right. So I'm starting from the beginning because we don't know which has happened. So the lack of funding has, okay, here we go.
Many students are affected by hardship during their time in college. As you'll see.
Yeah, so, okay. Okay, I'm gonna start again. I can go.
Anytime you want.
Okay. Many students are impacted by the lack of funding, and it's shaped their college experience here at Salem State University. So what you'll see and hear are students' experiences of how funding has impacted them. There we go. Let's keep it simple.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Just short and sweet. Okay.
And we're recording.
Hi, my name is Dr. Tiffany Gale Chenault, and I'm a professor here at Salem State. And I'm excited that my capstone class is going to talk to you about funding, about what it's like to be a student at Salem State University, what it's like to work, to what it's like to go to school here, and what it's like to be in debt here. So you're going to hear the stories of my students telling you about their experiences here at Salem State University. That was trash. That was so trash.
Okay, so I'm recording.
So Sydney, tell me, how do you pay for school?
I pay for school by student loans and generally a lot of help from my parents.
So you don't work?
Right now I have a job, but it pays minimum wage, which is not enough to pay back any student loans right now. I'm currently looking for a job that pays better money.
So because you take out loans, do you expect to be in debt after graduation?
Oh yes, definitely. I expect to be in at least about around 100,000 in debt, ish.
And so do you think that because of that, you ever thought about dropping out of school or leaving school?
There are some times where I have, because I was worried that I couldn't pay back my debt, as my debt is pretty high and I don't currently have a job that could pay it back right now. But yes, there are some times that I've thought about dropping out because of my debt.
And has that interfered with you trying to study and learn?
No, not really. I study and learn basically the same. I usually don't worry or think about my student debt when I study or learn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Cut. All right, recording.
So tell me, how do you pay for school?
So currently I'm only taking 1 or 2 classes at a time, so I pay out of pocket. But the first 2 years I went to school full-time, worked 2 or 3 jobs, and it was just too much. The debt was accumulating, I couldn't balance. So I just started working full-time and taking 1 class at night, and it was a lot easier.
And so the work that you do, it pays for school?
They don't pay for school, but I just kind of save and budget to do that.
And so did you want to be a full-time student?
It would have been easier, I think, to be a full-time student and do it and focus on it instead of trying to juggle everything, but it's just kind of what worked.
And so will you be in any debt after graduation?
Yes. So far I have like 28 grand worth of debt.
Oh.
Yeah.
And do you expect that number's going to go up or go down?
It should be about the same. Because I'm not a full-time student, I actually pay part of it now.
And so because you're not a full-time student, would that delay you in terms of graduating?
Yes. Like I've been in school kind of for a while.
And what's for a while?
I'm on year 7 because I did 2 years, did like the full 2 years, and then I've only been taking 1 or 2 classes. So it's a slower process.
But if you could, would you have preferred to be a full-time
If
student?
money wasn't an issue, definitely.
You would be a full-time student. And so has that taken away from you learning your educational experience?
Maybe in some ways, but I've also gained a lot of life experience at the same time. So I think sometimes the life experience helps in school, but it's also, I don't know, probably would be easier just to focus on school completely.
And with the debt that you're in now, do you think that will hurt you later on in terms of other finances or other things you may want to do?
I think because I'm already kind of dealing with it. Like, it's not like I'm not on a full payment because I can't afford what they want me to pay. So I'm slowly paying it. And I think because I want to teach, that like they say that if you work for 10 years, then your debt's not the same.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's kind of my one last question. And so, is there something that you would change if you can go back, that you change about kind of school in terms of funding?
I mean, if school was properly funded, it would definitely be better, I think, because then I would have been able to graduate within 4 years and start working versus kind of juggling all the balls that I juggle at the same time. But I think means to the ends. This is how I had to get there, and it's better to get there in the end. But it's definitely been a difficult journey.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Thank you. I'll send in the next one.
Yes, exactly. Keep them coming.
Tiffany, we need to, when they answer, they have to either repeat the question, or, I mean, if your questions are not gonna be in the thing, they have to, like, repeat the question or make clear what they're talking about.
Okay.
All right, because they're answering, and it's not very clear that they're, I mean, they're just like, oh, yeah, whatever you said, you know, they say like, oh, yeah, it will be easier.
For you to know
Will
what
be
that is.
easier what?
Okay,
Yeah,
in when contacts, okay.
Yeah.
Ron, you're still rolling.
And just open the door.
What?
So I was like, what room am I going into?
Just for like the sake of how it's gonna play out.
You guys ready? Okay.
Yes, we're ready.
So, I'm recording now.
So, how do you pay for school?
All right, how do I pay for school? Right now, I'm taking loans out, and then by the time I graduate, I'll be paying them monthly myself through hopefully a job that I get when I graduate. Yep.
And so how much are your loans?
Right now, I think $30,000 total.
I'm sorry, can you say my loans?
Oh, my loans are $30,000 total right now.
And so are you working?
Yeah, am I working? Yes, I am working about 20 to 25 hours a week with school.
And so so tell us then, does that pay for school? Is that a burden? So is working and paying for loans, is that a burden for you?
Is working and paying loans a burden? Right now, not so much because I'm focusing on just working and saving up. So I'm hoping by the time I graduate, I have enough money saved up that it won't be that much of a burden. But yeah, right now, not so much. But I don't know how it's going to be in like 6 months.
And have you ever thought about taking a leave of absence from school because of either loans or just other things?
I have never thought of taking a leave of absence just because I figured if I were to take a leave of absence, it was going to pile up anyways, and then I would eventually go back and I would still have the same amount, so
Of debt.
yeah, same amount of debt.
And so has paying for school interfered with you learning and going to school?
Paying for school has interfered sometimes, especially when the new semester begins and I have to buy books and buy all these other necessities for school. Sometimes it can add up and I don't have enough money for my everyday life, which is kind of tough.
So is school a burden and a struggle for you?
School yes, it can be a burden and a struggle because I feel like I have so much opportunity if I wasn't in school to work and make more money, but being in school, it's kind of hard to balance making money and going to school full time without driving myself insane.
And if you could, would you just like to just go to school just to learn? And that's it?
I would love to go to school just to learn and not have to worry about working or anything like that, but it just doesn't seem realistic at any point. But that would ideally be the dream. But yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, let me get to the next person.
Okay.
And rolling.
So, can you tell me what's your experience been like at Salem State University?
So my experience at Salem State University so far has been pretty good, I should say. I came from Suffolk University, so kind of a big change, but so far I feel like the help that I've been getting has been really well, and my classes and everything so far has been pretty good.
Good. And so, why did you transfer from Suffolk to Salem State?
The main reason why I transferred from Suffolk to Salem State was because of the money. The tuition at Suffolk compared to Salem State was immaculate. It was like a crazy difference. Salem State's a lot cheaper than Suffolk was.
And so, are you in debt from Suffolk or from Salem State or both?
I'm in debt from both schools, Salem State and Suffolk, but more from Suffolk, I will say, yeah.
And do you, well, how do you pay for school?
So I do take out loans when it comes, like I fill up my FAFSA, and then I do take out loans per semester to pay for school, but I also work 2 jobs to help, like, save up to pay those loans and, you know, live day to day.
And how many hours do you work?
I
a
work-
week, you think?
A week I work 30 hours. I work 2 jobs, so divvy it up.
And are you still going to school full-time or part-time?
Full-time. I'm a full-time student at Salem State.
And so how are you balancing work and trying to go to school?
So balancing school and work, it is a lot, but I've managed because I've been doing it since I was a freshman in college, and now I'm a senior, so it's been manageable. Sometimes it does get tough, but I never let it really discourage me.
And have you thought about taking a leave of absence or dropping out to stop the debt, so to save money?
I've honestly never thought about dropping out of school because I felt like if I did drop out of school, no matter what, I would have to worry about my debt, and it would just make it that much worse. So just, yeah, keep going.
Are you able to actually focus on school? Or are you just taking classes to take them so you can get out and graduate?
No, I'm focusing, surprisingly, because I want to get out of here and get a good job so that way I can pay off all of my loans and my student debt.
And how much debt do you think you have?
Right now, I think I'm about 70 grand from Suffolk, yeah, and then, you know, a little bit from Salem State.
And
Yep.
do you commute or you live on campus?
I commute. Yep. I drive here every day from Everett to Salem.
And you do that, is that a way to save money?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a way to save money, but also it wouldn't make sense for me to live in Salem because I work closer to home, and it just makes more sense to live at home. Yep.
If you lived on campus, do you think you will feel more a part of being a part of the Salem State community if you were on campus?
I do think that I would feel more of a part of the Salem State community if I lived on campus. I feel like you don't get the full exposure when you commute because you come here to take your classes, or if you have to, you know, study extra. But, excuse me, I think if I lived on campus, I would definitely feel more a part of that Salem State community. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bring in the next person.
You got it.
So what's your experience like at Salem State?
Ooh, my experience at Salem State. I've had some ups and downs, battling, you know, school, juggling work. It's not been a positive experience. I've been here for 5 years, and I have wanted to quit every single day, pretty much, coming here.
Why?
When I first started or applying to schools, I wanted to pretty much prove everyone wrong in my family that I could get into school. And once I did all the process and I got accepted to, you know, colleges, I kind of just switched up and I didn't want to go anymore because I knew school wasn't for me. So when it was time for me to pick a school to go to, Salem State was just pretty much just shoved into my lap because it was close to home, and my mom did not want me to go like any further than Salem, pretty much. And I was actually going through mental health issues at the time, so I had to stay close to home for me to, you know, get my treatments and all that. So that kind of factored into that decision as well. So that's how I got stuck at Salem State, pretty much. As far as my experience, I've been pretty much unhappy the entire time coming here, and I'm pretty much over it and ready to graduate. So.
Do you work or take out loans? How do you pay for school?
I didn't actually. How I pay for school is by loans and scholarships. So I had scholarships my first 2 years, and because I didn't really know how, like, what to do afterwards in terms of like paying, like out of pocket, like how to like set that up. Because I wasn't working my first 2 years when I was in college here, so, and my mom had just been laid off of work, while, like in the beginning of me transitioning from high school to college, so, and she never really saved up money for me to go to college, so I had to take out loans for the last pretty much 3 years to finish my education, so I'm pretty much in debt. A lot of debt, actually. So I'm leaving here with $35,000 in student loans. Yeah.
And do you work?
Yes, I actually, I have been working pretty much for like 4 years consistently, but it wasn't enough for me to be able to pay for school monthly to keep up with the payments. So that's why I had to take out more loans. And then eventually my mom had to sign out a Parent Plus loan for me to finish because I had maxed out of my, the 4 years limit. So I pretty much have like.
And so when you graduate, you'll be in debt. Will you be in debt?
Yes, I will be in debt pretty much for a while.
And so how does being in debt make you feel, about trying to go to school and being in debt? How does that make you feel?
How does it make me feel being in debt? Stressed, annoyed. Because I could have avoided this entire situation had I not just gone to school in the first place. Because I'm kind of stuck in a major where I'm not totally passionate about. So I pretty much feel like I wasted my entire 5 years here doing something I'm not, you know, happy doing in the long run. And I don't really know, like, different career paths I can take with it. No, I do actually know what career path I can take with it. I just don't want to do those, if that makes sense. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
And so, if you could do it all over again and not be in debt, would you come to Salem State or would you be in school at some other place maybe?
Honestly, no. I wouldn't have come to Salem State because it wasn't the school for me. And I would have waited at least a year to figure out if this is what I really wanted to do. Because when I graduated high school, it wasn't even like a month, and I started summer classes here. Because I went through Summer Bridge. Like, I got accepted to the school without Summer Bridge, but I was offered to go to Summer Bridge as well, so I just just because I wanted to graduate quicker. That's how I imagined it. But after my first year, I pretty much failed all my classes because I was very, like I couldn't do it. Like half the time I couldn't get out of my dorm room to go to my classes. So I just skipped all my classes. I failed everything. I almost flunked out of school my first year. I pretty much had to sit down with my SD counselor, which is Ivan, and he was like, what do you want to do now? Because now you have to appeal to see if you can stay in school to keep your financial aid. Do you really want to do this? So pretty much, I mean, I'm still here, so I did want to do it. I mean, I do value the part where I got my education. I just wish I took the time and reassess. Because I didn't really have that support system behind me to really tell me or like guide me through the whole process. I was just kind of just told what to do and just pushed in, and this is what you need to do by this time and this date because everybody else is doing it. Why can't you? And I don't work that way because school's always been hard for me. I have a learning disability. It was like I've always had that in the forefront of my mind. Like, you're not that smart. You can't really do this. So why are you wasting your time? Because this is what I was told since I was a kid. So as you grow up, you become negative because your environment is negative. You don't really know how to push yourself to be any better. So why? Because no one else is doing it, why can't? So when I decided to, appeal for my financial aid, I was, at that point, was just like, this is going to be for you. This is going to be your future. Don't think about everybody else around you. Because the same people who are putting you down daily are, like, once you make it, or at least work your way towards making it, they're going to be the ones be like, can I have help? So it's just like, you know what, forget those people and do this for you, yeah.
It's good to know. All right, excellent, thank you.
Thanks.
We'll get the next person.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, you ready?
Yes.
All right, ready.
All right. So, what's your experience like in here at Salem State University?
My experience at Salem State has been pretty positive. I've been here since I was a freshman and now I'm a senior, so this will be my 4th year at Salem State, and I can honestly say that I've had a pretty positive experience here.
And what's really positive?
I'd say I've had a lot of positive interactions, like socially, with teachers in a class setting. I'd say I've had a lot of help. I feel like I've gotten a lot of guidance in a lot of different ways, like from my guidance counselors, from professors on, not only what we should be doing in school academically, but what we can use that for when we get out of Salem State. So I'd say that's probably one of the biggest positives that I've taken away from it.
And so how do you pay for school?
I have a mix. So my parents help me and they make a couple monthly payments. They have a payment plan set up. And for the rest of my tuition and my bill, I have subsidized and unsubsidized financial aid.
Do you work at all?
Yes, I work part-time due to being in school full-time. I can only work a certain amount of hours. I work about 15 to 20 hours a week at one job, and I work 4 or 5 hours at another job on the weekends. So I work 2 separate jobs.
And how has that balance been between working and going to school?
Very difficult. It's extremely difficult, especially, like for me personally, I usually have class some days from like 8 to 1, and then I work 1:30 to 6. So a lot of times, it's not an excuse, but by the time I get home or back from work, I don't have the necessarily energy to do homework, or the fact that, let's say I get home by 7:30, if I have an 8 a.m. the next day, I want to get to bed at a reasonable time, but I have a certain amount of homework that I need to complete before I can get to bed. So it definitely makes it difficult because I also work with kids all day, so it's a different type of exhausting. So by the time I get back, I'm emotionally and physically drained. So it's tough to push through that sometimes to do school. Sometimes it's easier to be like, oh, I'll just go to bed and I'll do it, later. So it definitely makes it more difficult not having as much time to focus on just school.
Do you need to have the part-time job?
I do, yes. I have a couple bills to pay. I have a credit card bill. I pay my cell phone, and I have a car payment and car insurance. So I've always worked. Not working has never necessarily been an option for me personally. I mean, my parents never said I had to work like a certain amount, but I do need to work a certain amount to cover my expenses every month.
And do you have an idea about how much your loans will be when you graduate? How much you would owe?
I'd say rough 23 to 25 grand I'll have to pay back, which, I know compared to most people is not a lot, but it's definitely tough that almost everyone I know, when they graduate or get out of school, they're going to have a certain amount to pay back, whether it be a little amount or, a lot, and that's not even including the interest that's going to accumulate and, stuff like that that's going to make your loans even higher. And I know, like, even my sister, I have a 27-year-old sister, and she had minimal amount in student loans, and she's still making, the payments on that. I want to say she had like 10, 15 grand, and she's still, 5-6 years later after she's graduated, she still has a full-time job and whatever, she still is making the payments on the loan, which definitely, like, for me is very discouraging because it makes me wonder how long it's going to take me to pay off my loans as well. So it's discouraging a little bit.
If you could, would you rather go to school without paying any loans?
Yeah, if it was, possible, but as everybody knows, it's tough in the economy as is, trying to, balance. There's so much going on now, and we're in such an expensive society right now about how much things just cost in general and how much government funding has gone down in a lot of different areas. So absolutely, I think education is one of the crucial areas that has gone down in funding and everything like that. So, if it was up to me, I'd absolutely come out of school debt-free. That would be amazing, because then you just make money right off the start. Now, when you come out, you kind of start at a deficit that you need to make up for.
Do you feel that having to pay for school, having loans, having to work, it's impeded you from actually just taking classes because you're interested in taking classes? Do you think that paying for school has affected your educational process of learning?
Yes, I would say my educational process hasn't been as positive as it could be. Like, ever since I was a freshman, I was never really leisurely taking classes or taking a class because I was interested by it or it was something that I just really wanted to take. Most of the classes that I've had to take, aside from electives that I had a couple different choices, most of the classes I've taken, I've done just to complete the degree, because it's one of those things where I don't have a lot of time. So courses, instead of kind of being able to poke around and try out different courses, I've kind of just taken the ones that I need to take so I can get to graduation instead of experiencing more education in different areas than just the ones that are required.
Ask you all these questions. Have you ever thought about staying around a little bit longer for school, or is that going to keep you more in debt?
Yeah, because my first 2 semesters here, I didn't take classes full time because I was working extensive amount of hours. I was working as like a supervisor somewhere, so I had more responsibilities at my work. So I could only take classes part-time. I think I took 3 classes. So because of that, I am a semester behind than what I would be for my graduating class. So I'm sticking around a little extra longer than I had anticipated. But I definitely, you know, the hopes and the dreams are to go to grad school and, you know, go to grad school and be able to experience and dive into what I actually want to do with my degree instead of just experiencing it from this educational, I need to get the degree standpoint. Maybe I can enjoy it a little more, and because it's not going to be as drawn out. It'll only be, you know, like 2 years or so. So maybe I'll have more time to actually enjoy what I'm learning instead of just trying to get the information in, retain it, and, you know, spit it back out so I can get what I need done.
Thank you.
Am I finite?
You are finito.
Okay.
Bring in the next.
Roll.
So what is your experience like at Salem State?
My experience at Salem State is very unique, I think, from my perspective, because it's diverse. From my perspective as a sociology major, I have a lot of different students in my class that I get to meet and talk to and socialize with and understand that everyone from Salem State that I interact with come from different backgrounds of life and different statuses.
And how long have you been at Salem State?
I've been at Salem State for 3 years now, going on my 4th.
And has there been any challenges, unique challenges being at Salem State?
I definitely think at Salem State, the challenges for me identifying myself as a black male is there's sometimes being comfortable in a classroom, knowing like your surroundings or understanding if staff are gonna really be for you, because sometimes I've seen like different situations take part being an African American male on this campus.
Do you have any examples?
Sometimes in class, I feel like, so depending on the professor, they can either just let you pass because they don't have high hopes for you, or some of them may treat you a little bit different because they don't know culture sensitivity or certain things that are equipped to help every student. So I feel like they lack in knowledge and understanding in maybe every type of culture. So they may approach you a little bit different, which can be challenging for both, for the educator and for the faculty too.
So, how do you pay for school?
I'm on financial aid, which when I graduate, because I'm a senior now, I'm graduating this May, I will be having to pay back my student debt, so I'm on financial aid.
How much student debt do you think you have?
I accumulated my student debt and I have $41,000.
Do you have a part-time job? Do you work or anything?
I work part-time,
How many hours?
20 hours.
Do you have to work?
I definitely do. I definitely do have to work. I work at Home Depot. Sometimes, you know, it is hard, but I feel like being a student, you have to do what you have to do. But it has its perks. Like, you learn the value of how you get things done, or you learn the value of hard work from being able to, like, I don't think every student's choice, it's their choice to work, but if you're not born with a silver spoon in your mouth, you have to learn how to get around certain things to provide for yourself.
So how do you balance work and school? Do you feel that working has impacted you from actually learning because you have to work so many hours?
I feel like it does at certain times, but you can't think about it in a negative light. You have to kind of think about it that this is giving me extra value, because when school's over, you can be like, I worked harder than the average person. I stayed up longer than the average person. So, because when you get into I feel like I'm partially in the real world now, but when my degree comes, I'll be in the real world for real. So it's gonna help me to an advantage that when you have a project on the job or you're working with certain people, there's gonna be some type of accountability where you may have a social life and a personal life, but sometimes they might interact, so you might have to do extra things just to get the job done. So that's what I've learned from working in undergrad while getting my degree. That's what I've learned. Like, sometimes your personal life and your work life will interact just to get things done, depending on what kind of job you do.
Do you feel that have you ever considered taking a leave of absence or dropping out of school to maybe stop your debt?
I definitely have thought about dropping out plenty of times because of certain situations that have happened to me. But the one thing that kind of kept me from doing that is the fear of being, you can be of leave of absence, but I think like after 6 months, you would have to figure out some type of way where you do a loan payment program or something like that. And let's be honest, to be very transparent here, if you have a job that's only making $15 an hour, you're probably going home with like $500 a week, $500 every 2 weeks, and that's not enough to pay back like what I'm gonna be owing. Like, no one's gonna be able to pay that back in like a certain amount of time. So I think like the goal is to not think about dropping out, and it is hard because that's a real circumstances students face every day, depending on their living situation, depending on if they have a support group, and if they don't have that, it makes things much harder for certain students.
So how does the burden of kind of facing your school debt, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel, I feel optimistic about when I look at my school debt, because it's like I have this great opportunity to like push to get myself from the poverty line, to make something of myself, but then I have this burden that's holding me back. So it kind of makes you think like, am I gonna really be able to accomplish what I want to accomplish at a certain age, or I'm gonna have to hold back on certain things that I want because I have to pay back for my education.
Thank you.
Nope.
So then the next person, please.
All right, ready?
Okay. So what has your experience been like at Salem State University?
What has been my experience at Salem State University? I would say overall it's been a positive experience. When selecting a school, it was important to me to find one that was affordable. I am financing my education with loans, so Salem State was definitely an affordable option. I found that the quality of the professors has been actually quite good, and in fact, I know several people that are in Ivy League schools, and they tell me that their classes are mainly taught by TAs, and it's nice to be in a educational setting where I think most of the professors are really committed to and passionate about educating. So I would say overall, I've definitely had a positive experience.
You mentioned this a little bit, but how do you pay for school?
The way that I'm paying for school is through student loans. Pretty much, I haven't had really any help financially from my family as far as the tuition and fees are concerned. I do live off campus, and I do sometimes get help from my parents for cost of living. But I for the most part pay my own way, and I am taking out loans for my education. So
are you working any jobs, part-time, full-time jobs?
So right now, I'm just going to school full-time. When I start graduate school in the fall, I'll be doing a work study. So my practicum, they'll give me a stipend basically. I think they're going to give me like $12 an hour, but that should only be around 20 hours a week. But I think between that and taking 5 classes, graduate level classes, it's going to be a lot. So we'll see. But right now, I'm just going to school full time. I work over the summers and during break. So
how much debt do you think you're in just from being undergrad? from being at Salem State, from the loans?
How much debt am I in? Well, I can tell you exactly how much debt I'm in. Do I have to answer that question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So right now, I have about $35,000 in debt. When I finish graduate school, that should increase about another 25,000. So I'll have about $60,000 in student loans by the time I'm done with grad school.
And do you think, well, let me answer this. Have you considered taking a leave of absence from school or dropping out to stop your debt?
Have I considered taking a leave of absence in order to stop my debt? No, I haven't. And the reason that I haven't is because the field in which I want to ultimately enter into, social work, it pretty much requires an advanced degree. There's really nothing that I could do, as far as, the field that I ultimately want to go into, that would pay me, a decent living wage. Any job in social work requires state licensure, and the only way to do that is through graduate school. So if I did take a leave of absence, number one, I'm afraid that I wouldn't get back to school because I know that often happens. And number two, I would be concerned, what ultimately the point would be, because I think that any job that I get, upon graduation with my undergrad, would probably be just enough to pay back my student loans and cover my living expenses. I don't think that I could actually even save any money. So I've elected to just go straight through and do full time.
And do you feel that taking out the loans has impacted you wanting to just take different classes to just explore and to learn, or you have to try to get in and get out?
So as far as whether or not incurring debt has impacted my decision to explore different classes, or whether I just want to sort of get in and get out, if you will, I would say that my college path wasn't exactly linear in the first place. I started off going to North Shore Community College because I hadn't been to school in about 2 years, and I wanted to sort of get my feet wet in an academic setting again. It had been some time since I had done that. So I kind of floundered around a little bit. I spent about a year at Salem State after that point as a business major. So I sort of, I don't like to think that anything is a waste of time, but I guess if you want to be, if you want to get into the semantics of it, I technically, I guess, since it didn't go towards my major, it was a little bit of a waste of time. But as far as whether or not it's like actually impacted my desire to learn, I wouldn't say that it has. I'm trying not to, I guess, think about it too much, and it's going to happen. I'm going to have to pay it back, and maybe I'll get in. Maybe I'll be able to figure out something with loan forgiveness, or work for a company that helps me pay back my loans. But I mean, I guess we'll see.
And so, you answered this a little bit, but how does the burden of facing your school debt, just overall, how does that make you feel?
So how does the burden of student loans carry on my shoulders? I would say that it is something that I do think about relatively frequently, but I would say that I've learned, just through past experience in my life that, and I'm not always perfect at practicing this, by no means. I'm human and I have worries just like anybody else. But I would say that I've learned to try to, sort of manage my anxiety a little bit as far as things that are out of my control. There's really nothing that I can do at this point. I have the debt. I've locked myself into a situation where, I sort of need to go to graduate school. And I wouldn't say that I have any regrets, because I'm ultimately entering into a field that I'm passionate about and that I want to do. But at the same time, of course, like I said, being human, it is something that I think about, and I do wonder how I'm going to make ends meet, paying, $350 a month in student loans on top of all my living expenses, and, starting out probably with a salary of, $50K out of grad school. It's going to be tough, and I don't have any illusions around that, but, I'll get through it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bring in the next person.
I've had a very interesting experience at Salem State, so it's definitely come with ups and downs. It hasn't been easy, but it's all made me who I am today. So I wouldn't say that I would trade it all or go with different opportunities or even go to a different school, but it hasn't been easy.
What were some of the things that haven't made it easy? Has it been like the professors, the classes?
I would say a good mix of all that. A good mix of everything hasn't made it easy. It's been in some cases more so a rarity with the professors, but I'm also very selective with who I take classes with. So I protect myself from that. Not saying that the professors that I don't take classes with aren't professors that I'm not a fan of, but I haven't heard enough good word put in about them to make me feel comfortable with taking their class. So for me to even put you on my navigator, to put you on Canvas, I have to have like 3 to 4 recommendations. I look at the professors that I have as the same. If I have to get 2 recommendations, a resume, a transcript to apply to a program, then for you to teach me, you have to have the same for me. And I take that, and it's helped. I think I've only had 1, 2 professors in my time here at Salem State that I wish I could go back and not have them. I do a lot of student leadership stuff. Hasn't been easy in that part. I did a presentation at the NASPA National Conference in 2019 in LA, downtown LA.
What that is. That's NASPA. What is that?
I did a presentation at the NASPA National Conference. It's the National Student Affairs. It's pretty much it's one of the professional associations for student affairs educators. And so I presented as an undergraduate student alongside two first-year professionals, so young professionals, about what it means to support student activism and how student affairs educators can effectively support student affairs activism, both faculty, staff, administration. And it's been interesting because those 2 supported me not only in my student leadership, which is activism, but my more traditional student activism when someone's going to look at it and say, oh, that's activism. I look at student leadership as a form of activism, which many people would draw boundaries there that shouldn't exist. Because as a student leader, you're advocating for students. It's the same group. Since they've graduated, because they supported me as student affairs educators in their graduate program, the support on that side has, I don't want to say disappeared, but it's diminished, like significantly. Like I don't, as a student leader, feel comfortable, secure at all in any of my student leadership. I feel like tomorrow it could all be taken away, and that's not cool. Especially if, I'm not trying to, toot my own horn in any way, but when I walk around campus, people know me. They know me as Armando. Whether you know me through my SRA and residence life, you know me through the Brotherhood, which is a Men of Color support initiative, whether you know me through Black, Brown, and Proud, which is student activism, whether you know me through the classes that we've taken together, or just seeing me at Marsh Hall, I'm a recognizable face on campus. And I don't take that to the head. I take that as an opportunity to help people. All of the things that I just listed don't go towards the intangibles that I do in supporting students and mentoring students. Like, you can't quantify that. You can't put a title on that. And I'd say I'd arguably spend more time supporting and mentoring students informally outside of any of my positions than I do formal work for any of the positions that I have. It could all be gone. Like some of my student leadership has been taken away. I have been kicked out of organizations unjustly, in my opinion, due to lack of evidence. Like, I'm on job probation for residence life. For a student conduct issue that I was found guilty of, that I don't know if there was clear guilt. So all of that doesn't help the fact that I work 2 jobs. I work 22 hours a week, roughly. I try and hit. I can't even hit 29 hours a week. I would like to, but I'm so busy with classes. I can't. I literally couldn't work more. I'd have to work weekends, but none of my jobs offer me to work weekends. If I could work weekends, I would work weekends 100% and hit 29 hours a week, 2 weeks. I'd get the max that I can work as a student worker. I've considered getting an off-campus job just to work weekends, just to make a little bit more money. It's not helpful. So where I'm at right now, I had a meeting with 2 of my professors. You're my 3rd one. I haven't had a meeting with you because I feel confident that I'll get an A in this class. I know that I've done the work, and I know that the project is a group project, but I'm confident in the product that we'll put out. Like, I'm not worried about this class. With 2 of my other professors, both in the sociology department, I've had a conversation with them about my grade, not because I'm worried about their class either. I just want to make sure I get an A. Like, I'm toting the line in one class on a B+-ish. The other class I have an A, but I had to sit down and talk with them. Hey, my 4th class, I'm not getting the support in that class that I would prefer, that I would like. And my GPA requirement for my student leadership positions is at risk because of that class. Not because of the 3 classes that I know I'm doing good in, but that class is concerning me. That professor was the only professor to give me anything lower than a B ever in school, in college. So it's funny where you find the support. And the academic stress doesn't help with the insecurity of student leadership, doesn't help with the insecurity of finances. I had to pay, well, really I had to pay $800 out of pocket to go to Cali to go to NASPA, to do a presentation that advocated for the strengths of this university in hiring their graduate professionals. They hired 2 phenomenal graduate students. And I wanted to tell the people at NASPA that. So I had to pay $800 out of pocket after I had already requested funds from the Student Life Department.
But you mentioned this a bit, and I wanted to go back to it. You say that you work a couple part-time jobs, but you didn't fully say how do you pay for school overall?
Loans. I mean, Residence Life covers my room and board. Federal loans, unsubsidized loans, subsidized loans, and then a private loan. It's a conversation that I have with my parents. So my father graduated on like an 8-year track, a continuing ed track at Northeastern a long time ago. My mother never graduated. She dropped out. But she's going back to school now. And my father went back to get his master's. It got paid for by the city because he's a firefighter and all that stuff. So they paid for him to get his master's in criminal justice, and he's trying to finesse. He's trying to do everything that he can to prepare himself with the city's help, because he's a firefighter and everything that he's doing is helping the city. So all my finances and student loan stuff has really been a conversation. Thankfully, I got my mother to help me walk through that process, so I'm not alone. She never did any of it. But she also has 2 older children that I'm the third. So I'm the third of my family. So she's been through the process 2 other times. I can definitely say out of my 2 siblings, I have the least debt.
Which is how much?
I did the calculations before I came here. So my freshman year, I think I have the most debt, so I pretty much had to pay most of my tuition and fees out of pocket. I think it left me with around $20,000 for my first year, roughly. After that, you knock off $13,000 from housing, and it only leaves me with roughly $10,000 a semester. Because I have, on top of the tuition and fees, everything, I have a slight scholarship. I don't get any financial aid, which is incredibly daunting to me because I have 4 of my family members, all 5 of my family is in college, taking courses in some capacity. My mother takes like 2 courses a semester because she works at a university. My father goes to school. Oh, not anymore because he graduated. So 4 of us, not all 5 of us. My brother graduated. So 3 of us. That's so crazy. That's awesome. 3 of us go to college now. But at one point, all 5 of us did. My financial aid's never changed. My parents don't. At one point, my mother was unemployed. Like, our financial status has fluctuated in and out of tax brackets since my sophomore year of high school. We've gone up and down. Pretty much since the recession. It's been everywhere. But we've managed to figure it out. So that was part of the decision of where I went to school. So I got admitted into Suffolk on a pretty similar deal. They actually gave me more money, Suffolk University. They gave me, I think, like $10,000 off. My first freshman year would have been $10,000 less than it was this year, than my freshman year at Salem. So I would have been in less debt my freshman year. But when I looked at the 4-year plan, the opportunities that Suffolk provided me in terms of lessening because you know how private universities go. They give you a great package in the first year, but then it goes nearly non-existent by your senior year. At Salem, I knew I could get a guaranteed 13, 14, depending on where they housed me, dollars off of my tuition and fees because of room and board, because I knew I was going to live on campus. My family has gotten almost $100,000 paid for by this university because all 3 of us were RAs for 3 years. That roughly rounds out to about 3 years is at 15 times 9, that's 150, a little less. We've gotten over $100,000 paid for by the university because we've taken advantage of those opportunities. I would not be able to go to school.
Universities in general or Salem State?
Not every school offers the same package that Salem State does. That was what was a big incentive. I could have went to other state schools, but I knew Salem State offered full room and board. I know UMass Amherst, I'm pretty sure it doesn't. So I think they offer stipends and stuff. So not every school offers full room and board, or at least back when I was a freshman, they didn't. When my brother joined Residence Life, they didn't. So coming to Salem was picking my school was which school in 4 years is going to give me the least amount of debt. So I 100% chose what institution I was going to go to based off of where I was accepted. I got accepted into BC. Like, they didn't give me any financial aid, though.
So if you weren't in Resident Life,
I would not be able to go to this institution. If I wasn't in Residence Life, I would have to take a leave of absence. I'd have to drop out. Which is incredible because of a student conduct issue because of a questionable decision in a student conduct issue that I was found guilty of or at fault of, it's put my job at risk.
Which could put your.
Which puts my attendance at this university, like, I don't, because of something that shouldn't have escalated to the level that it did, but it did, my attendance at this university is at risk. And not at all because I would 100, any student can find loans to go to school, but is that the right thing to do? Or is it smarter to do something else, right? Like, it's not, there's tons of loan sharks out there that are posing as businesses that might be able to give you however much money you need to put up to go to college, but is the interest rate going to be right? Is it going to be a smart financial, like, these decisions that, thankfully, because my parents have been so involved in the process, I do know that my loans are at a good interest rate. I do know that I can potentially in the future start paying them off at higher rates than the actual interest rate is because they're solid deals. I can consolidate my loans. I can do all that. I know those pathways. But imagine if I, like most of the children from where I come from in Boston, didn't have a mother and a father that knew those things, that were that involved. Imagine if I was a first gen. Imagine if I didn't have a brother and sister that went through it. Like, I'm the outlier. I got lucky. I got lucky by being the youngest, even. Like, my brothers had it so much harder. My brother has more debt than me. My sister has more debt than me. I have, thankfully, academic scholarships that they don't have.
You answer the questions. I have to prop you. I'm like, all right, I'm good.
Cool.
You can send in the text person.
All right, we're going.
So, what has your experience been like at Salem State University?
My experience at Salem State has been pretty great as a student. Everyone has been very accommodating, and I feel like it's a beneficial experience, but it's costly.
Do tell. Like, it's costly how?
Books, of course. It's costly because, there's a lot of books to pay for. There's just like student loans and tuitions, parking, all the fees that add up over time.
And so how do you pay for school?
I work a job. I was working 2 jobs up until last semester, and then I quit one of them. But I have student loans out, and I've been paying them off monthly since I started school.
And do you go to school full time?
Yes.
And
I
so
do.
how do you balance work and school?
I very fortunately have a very flexible job where I can work a morning shift with my students. I'm an education major, and an afternoon shift, so I've been able to squeeze my school day in the middle and then hopefully get all my homework done in a timely manner so I can go to bed.
So because of work and school, are you actually able to learn things, or are you just trying to get the course done so you can get out?
Sometimes it's just getting the course done. Sometimes I'm really taking away from it, but I think I would benefit more if I was able to focus like all of my thoughts toward like academics, one way or the other.
And is that because of work you can't focus on academics completely?
I think it's mostly the schedule is why I wouldn't be able to focus academics completely. So fit my school day in as a commuter, I have to take a really early morning shift, which means I have to go to bed a little bit earlier. And I think if I was able to like have a little bit more flexible schedule or something along the lines, it would just be easier for me to maintain like a healthy sleep schedule and manage my classes and work a bit easier.
And how many, I mean, you said this, but how many hours do you work, like a week, do you think? When you had the 2 jobs before now?
When I had the 2 jobs, I was working anywhere between 40 to 50 hours a week. And I was taking my 5 classes as well. Now I'm working somewhere between 25 to 30 hours a week.
And why did you quit the one job?
I quit my previous job because I had to take a semester off for medical leave, and I quit for medical reasons. I wasn't physically able to do my best at that job anymore, and I wanted to focus a little more of my time on being able to attend class as opposed to working and feeling the benefits physically and being absent for class.
And so, do you know how much debt you're going to be in? Do you have some
I
idea?
believe I went to community college for 2 years, which has provided like a slight decrease in the amount that I've been like talking to other people about, but I think it's around $16,000. I'll still be in debt even though I went to community college for 2 years.
And so tell us about that. So was that a choice to do community college and then come to Salem State, or what was your plan?
My plan after high school was I just wanted to make sure I was on the right track before spending the money to go to a state school. And there was a community college very close by to my work and where I lived at the point. So I decided to go there for a few years. And it was a very beneficial experience, and I don't regret it at all. And I'm very happy that the guidance counselors at my school kind of steered me more toward that while I was making my choices.
No, that's good. And so you'll be about $16,000 in debt, give or take. So do you ever feel that you should take like a leave of absence because of the debt, or?
I think I'm in a different situation where I've already taken a leave of absence for medical reasons, so I don't think that really crossed my mind. But I'm sure if I didn't have my medical leave, it would have been slightly more stressful, and I would have been trying to figure that out as well.
And so, thank you. And so so the burden of school debt, I mean, how does that just make you feel? You think about you're still gonna have to pay this debt, school debt. I mean, how do you feel about that?
It's definitely stressful, especially with everything else going on in your life. Like, you really don't want to have to worry about how you're going to pay off your education once you're in the career field. You would hope that once you're in the career field, everything would be moving up and you wouldn't have to still be looking back and being stressed. So I think that's where my thought process is most of the time. I'm always like, oh, I can look forward, but I still have to like look back. And that's pretty stressful, but
You survive. Okay, see? Quick and painless.
what was that?
Quick and painless. You answer all the questions.
All right, cool.
You guys, I know you're ready.
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay. So, what's your experience like? What has your experience been like at Salem State University?
Overall, very supportive. Surprisingly, because it's hard going back as an older student.
Being an older student coming back, can you expand more on that? Like, did you come here, then take time off, or did you go to a different institution? Kind of.
Well, I started at Simmons when I was very young, and I got mono, and the school didn't support me, so I had to academically drop out. They failed me instead. So I ended up at Bunker Hill, and I got an associate's degree, and then I went to here to Salem State, and then life just happened, and I took time off, and I applied for a job that I didn't get. And I believed it was because I didn't have a degree, because it was part of the requirements. Didn't end up being the case, but nonetheless, I wanted to complete the degree, so that's why I came back.
Okay. And so you're here full-time, part-time?
I'm here full-time. Here full-time at Salem State, work full-time, do an internship. I'm tired.
And so then how do you pay for school?
So I paid up front a chunk because I saved knowing I was coming back. I took a loan out that I wasn't going to have to pay the interest until I graduated because that was important to me. And so half loan, half pay up front.
And how much loan debt do you have?
Right now, my loan debt is $5,500, but I hope to pay that, if not before I graduate, soon thereafter, because I have the luxury of working full-time.
And so how do you balance that in terms of work and school? Is there conflict? Can you actually learn? Is it just you take the courses to take it?
Balancing work and school is very difficult because I have a full-time job, a part-time job, an internship and I'm taking full course load. It is a give and take. It's mostly sleep that doesn't exist. But I do take all day Sundays from the beginning of Sunday till midnight, and I come here in the library and I do all my work for the most part. Otherwise, I mean, I think I am doing really well, especially compared to before. Last semester I got a 4.0, so I am getting the information in, and I think as an adult, I appreciate that information a lot more than before.
And so, does your, so when you graduate, will you be in debt, or will you have everything paid off after graduation?
I will hopefully not be in debt, but if I am, it'll be $5,500, and that will be paid off shortly, because I'm going to start grad school, and I want it paid off before then. And I have the savings to pay it off, but I like to keep budgeting everything.
But it's because you're working and you've worked. Like, would you have the finances to pay for it otherwise?
When I was younger, I worked 3 jobs to pay for school, and it was taxing and hard to handle being that age, specific college age in your 20s, and juggling all that. And there was things that faltered, and it was usually academics.
Mm. But so if you didn't have to work, and if you were funded, the state funded you, do you think that you would be able to thrive better in an academic space?
I think I would have. I think, wondering how are you going to pay rent, because I was always a commuter, and then how are you going to pay for your fees? And it's not just tuition. The fees are now more than the tuition at this point. So, that's a concern also. So, yeah, I think it would have been much easier had I had that cushion of not being stressed about where's the money coming from. Because I was always realistic that I was in a helping field, and I know that helping fields do not make money, and I became one with that when I was younger, but also a realist about getting in debt and not getting in debt.
And so is that a burden that you think about all the time in terms of the debt that you will occur, the debt that you have?
I don't think anymore as an adult, because I've planned it out very well, and I've worked at my job for 13 years, and I've had that experience. I think when I was younger it was very stressful, and I think right now, planning to go to grad school, I'm going to have to leave my job, and I think that financial burden is very stressful for me. So it's like the next step is really going to be stressful for me, because you don't get any money, you just get loans basically for grad school. So, and they're only in the evening, and my job is in the evening, so I have to walk away from my job in order to do grad school.
It is stressful.
Just a little.
A little bit. Okay. You answered all the questions.
Okay, thank you.
See? It's okay.